if could you introduce yourself?
Me?
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Steve. I'm from America. My hometown is in New Jersey. And yeah, I've been living in Japan, always in Osaka, for the past, it's almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years next week, actually. Yeah. So pretty excited to be here, both on the video now and, you know, just in Japan in general. It's been 10 years. It's been fantastic. And I've always lived in Osaka.
Wow. So you like it, then,
I like it. You know, I feel really lucky to be here. I mean, it's it's a great place. It's a safe place. The people are great, and you know, it's convenient. It's not an incredibly expensive place. So yeah, I love living here, and yeah, I'm very happy to be here. And yep. What else can I tell you about myself?
That's fantastic.
My favorite food is pizza. There we go.
Lovely. Fantastic. Favorite food is pizza. Everyone likes pizza. And so you've lived in Japan for a long time. Do you remember when you first moved? How was the transition?
Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, really, it was interesting. I mean, it was a new place. It was an exciting place. And, you know, I had a good support system because I had two friends from when I lived in New York City for about 10 years before I came to Japan. And I had two really good Japanese friends. So they wanted to come back to Japan. So they told me, hey, we're moving back to Japan. You know, do you want to come with us? I was like, sounds good. So I had been here twice on vacation before. So I knew a little bit about what I was doing. But I had a good support system waiting for me here too. So I had my two friends and their families. And then I could make friends. And yeah, I guess that's the most important part to living in a new country, isn't it? Kind of making... Now you don't have to have a million friends, but if you have a kind of your little network of people who you can count on to help you when you need it, and people you can help when they need it, and it's always good to have those kind of people in your life, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, it's sorry, please.
How about you? When you came here, how was the transition?
So yeah, it was interesting. I had a good network from my wife's family.
Okay.
So there was a good support system. But, you know, many of the learners on this call and many people who might watch it later are thinking of making that step, you know, to move countries. And that's one of the reasons many people learn English, you know, so it's important for them to hear what we got to say as well about that kind of situation. You know, it's very different for each person. Like you say, having that network is important, and being willing to take that step to talk to new people. It's a difficult step, isn't it?
It is a difficult step. It is.
So
but it's
did you?
It's an important one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure it is. Yeah, definitely. Did you practice much Japanese before you came?
That's a good question. I wasn't very good when I first came here. Just I'm still not perfect, but I'm still not fluent. I'm okay. I'm working on it. But when I first came here, yeah, it was just, arigato, daijoubu. That's about it. Yeah, just sumimasen. That's about it. Yeah. But it's good. And I'm growing with the students too. So I like, kind of helping my students study. And, as I work with them with different techniques, and I can kind of help myself with my studies as well. So kind of taking the adventure together, my students and I. So it's really, really good. I love my students, and we really have a great relationship, and they're like my friends. So I'm really, really, I can't tell you enough how lucky I feel to be here. So
that's fantastic.
How long have you been here, Stu? You've been here for a while, right?
4 years coming in December, yeah. So quite a while. Not as long as you. I'm not a veteran yet, but I've done a bit of time.
4 years is a bit of time, and
yeah,
before you know it, it'll be 10, and then it'll be 20.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I look forward to it. Though. It's a great country to live in.
It really is. Now, Stu, I forget off the top of my head, which area do you live in again?
I live in Chiba, so I'm on the other side.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
very good. Do you intend on staying in Chiba?
I kind of like it. It's like not far away from, not too close to Tokyo, not too far away. you know, so it's quite nice. I don't mind the city, but just, you know, it's nice to be able to be in a quiet area. And I mean, Japan's quiet in general, though, to be fair. So
Sure.
compared to home. Did you find any culture shock when you first moved?
It's a good question. Well, of course, the language was a big obstacle, and then I mean, besides just all of the little things, you know, and the parents of the people I knew gave me a good lesson in the beginning. You know, hey, you're in a new country. You know, everybody's watching you, right? You don't look the same as everybody else, right? So if you're out, if you're out there and you're making mistakes and you're acting in a way that people can't trust you, your trust is very important, and it's probably the most important thing anywhere in the world, but maybe especially here or in a new country, right? You have to earn people's trust. So as soon as you earn people's trust, then it's going to be a lot easier. So in the beginning, you know, I didn't know many people, and just, you know, kind of, you know, building trust with everybody I met. But I mean, there was nothing, you know, there's no food I don't like, and there's no, like, you know, all of the little things, like, you know, using chopsticks or something like that. All of those little things happened before. So I guess being in the minority was a big shock, you know, to, you know, all my life I was in the majority. So now I'm in the minority, and that was a shock at first. It was a little, you know, when everyone's looking at you, like everywhere you go, sometimes it becomes, a bit of a shock. Yeah,
for sure. I can. Yeah, that was a big one for me, actually, and still sometimes, you know, you just get used to it, though, I suppose.
Yep,
it's an interesting one.
True. How about you?
And yeah, same, like literally the same situation, really, by the sounds of it. Very, very similar.
Yep.
I was very lucky to have my family here, like my wife and kids. So like I have another thing to think about. When you're single, I imagine it's a lot different. So when you first came here, I assume you were single. So
I was single when I first came here. I got married about 1.5 years ago. So yeah, I know what you mean. It does change things. Yeah. Even, you know, now that, you know, I'm married, we don't have any children, but we have a dog, and you know, he's a very high energy dog, so he's a lot of work too. So yeah, we're very happy here, and we're doing really, really, really well, and that's a good thing.
Fantastic. So, what's the best place you've visited so far?
In Japan? Oh, it's a good question. I mean, there's so many nice places. I would say Okinawa. I love Okinawa. I love the beach. My hometown is actually a beach town. So in this, you know, in the springtime, I love to go to Okinawa and go to the beach there. And then in the summertime, go to the lake here, Lake Biwa. It's beautiful. Have you been to Osaka before?
I've been to Kyoto. We didn't get a chance to go to Osaka last time, but we want to in the future. Yeah.
Right. You should. It's a great place. It's good food, good people, and good times.
I hear the street food is awesome.
It is good street food. It is. Yeah.
Super interesting.
Back to your question.
Please.
Back to your question about when Japanese people go overseas, you know, there's a lot of things that they need to think about too, right? So, you know, I think one of the biggest decisions that they have to make is similar to what we had to do. Is, you know, do you want to live in a very urban place? You know, do you want to live in a city, or do you want to live more in the countryside area where it's going to be more quiet and peaceful, but less opportunities to meet people, right? Yeah. So if you could choose again, now you live near your wife's family, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you didn't really choose Chiba. If you could choose again, would you choose exactly where you live now, or would you choose somewhere else?
Good question. I mean, for me, I could live anywhere. So to me, honestly, it doesn't really matter so much. But I like where we are because it's small for a place in Japan. It's only like 100,000 people, maybe less.
Right.
80,000 people, but close enough to the city where it takes only an hour's commute, so it's not so bad.
Not bad at all.
So I kind of like that. But how about you?
I'm pretty happy in the city. There's not a lot of, like, you know, beach places here. So, you know, I would always choose to live near a beach, but I mean, unless I'm going to move to, you know, kind of remote areas, then So I like the city. It's convenient. I can ride my bicycle everywhere. If I need to take a train, I can just, you know, I can get anywhere very easily. And yeah, it's not bad. I live near like a business park, and yeah, it's really, you know, there's parks, there's buildings, there's rivers, there's, you know, not too far away, there's a beautiful lake where I can go in the summer. So everything is really close. So I think for me, at least until now in my life, convenience has always been very important. So yeah, so that's one of the big reasons why I love Osaka.
Has there been anything that has been difficult to deal with since moving to Japan?
It's a good question. Difficult. I mean, I guess, you know, I'm very happy being an English coach like I am now. I'm very happy with that. When I first came here, it was the only option I had. So at that time, I felt like a little frustrated because I had to learn how to be an English teacher, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to be an English teacher, so I had to learn it, and it took a while. So while I was learning, I think that was frustrating, right? Because, you know, I'm trying to learn Japanese, and I'm also realizing I don't know English very well, right? So I know it, but
explanation and knowing and using is two different things. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, teaching other people how to use it is you know, quite a unique experience.
Sure.
Yep. So I guess that was it. But you know, I never really met many bad people. I've never really had any big problems. You know, some people have problems anywhere, but it could happen. You know, problems could happen to you anywhere in the world. But I've never really had any problems or issues or anything. So, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I haven't really had any issues at all. Just that I don't speak much of the language, so that because like, you know what it's like when you first move. Like an English teacher is like literally the only job unless you've got some language ability.
Right.
So my whole day is English at work, and then I have 2 kids, so English at home all day, and then Instagram English. So it's kind of busy with English, and the occurrences to speak Japanese are a little lower than I would prefer, but it is what it is, you know. So
Yep, it is what it is. But it feels good to help people, right? So you know, we're teaching people English, and we can watch people improve in their English and get more opportunities in their life. So we can feel really good about the people that we help, right?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, there's a good opportunity there to help people. And how would you say about the level of English in Japan compared to what you maybe expected before coming?
That's a good question. I didn't think, because I think everyone has a pretty good, you know, maybe it's deep in their memory, from years ago, but everyone has a basic understanding of English, right?
Yeah.
You know, they've learned it at some point in their life. Maybe they didn't learn it like the proper way, but they learned it at some point in their life. So it's not like we're you know, if we come here and we don't know anything and we have to start from zero, they actually have some kind of language training that took place at some point in their life, right? Now, if they some people studied really hard and they have a better foundation, but everyone has some kind of foundation, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you know, it's probably the same for you. You know, if you're outside, you speak Japanese as much as possible, but then if the person speaks English to you, it's a relief, right? It feels good, right?
Yeah, kind of. I'm in the middle at the minute because I'm 4 years in, and I'm kind of like a little. I wish I could speak more, you know. So those moments when you go to to a restaurant and the person automatically speaks in English is a little frustrating, but
right.
You know, it is what it is.
Give me a chance.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just trying to help. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you know, if you were back home and you were a waiter or a waitress, or you wouldn't be a waitress if you were a waiter, and you know someone, you know, you notice the Japanese people sitting at the table. You might try to talk to them in Japanese, right? Like just because you just want to be nice, right? So yeah, they're just trying to be nice. But I know what you mean, though. It's like, you know, if you get like an English menu and you're like, hey, no, give me the Japanese menu. Give me the Japanese menu. I'm trying my best.
Yeah, but it is what it is, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
And have you had any common issues from any of, like, sorry, not issues, but common errors that you've noticed from your learners? Like, is there anything that many people do? Because here is very textbook based. Many people learn thoroughly via textbook at the moment. That's obviously still, that's changing from next year, but they're having like their base knowledge is just textbook for the people that maybe that you deal with more so than myself. But do you find that because they haven't, obviously one of the major things is the lack of speaking means that they have that knowledge, like you said, but to use it is a different thing, isn't it?
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting. Every student has different strengths and weaknesses, but I find a lot of the times we're correcting just little mistakes, you know, little prepositions, you know, with, is it by or until? Is it on or in, right? You know, those little things make a big difference, right? So it's a lot of repetition, you know, as we're talking and they make mistakes, I fix them. We fix the mistakes. You know, we don't stress about it. No stress. We just, you know, try to have a natural conversation about a topic that they've prepared. So they take some time to prepare before the lesson, so they know what they want to say and they know what we're going to talk about. And then during the lesson, we talk about those things and we make sure we touch on the vocabulary and the grammar points and things like that. But as much as possible, having a natural conversation about what they've prepared before, fixing any mistakes that they make in the conversation, and then after, you know, I make sure that they review it so that they can kind of make less of those mistakes in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Do you, how would I say, do you use a lot of conversation during your sessions, or do you have like a formula that you stick to throughout most of your sessions?
Try to, you know, we depending on the students, either we mix textbooks or we do like articles and videos from the internet that I'll send them like 5 options and let them choose one, and then in the lesson we'll talk about that. So it could be that, or it's the textbook. Now, if it's the textbook, you know, I always think it's so boring to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the textbook. So before they prepare, I tell them, hey, skip this part, or make sure you focus on this part. You know, this part's just some boring grammar. Don't worry about it. Please do this part, this part, this part. And then in the lesson, when we're reviewing it and talking about it, you know, make sure we build on that conversation, right? You know, just not just repeating what's in the book and what they prepared, but building on that with some unexpected questions and some unexpected topics, so they can practice speaking without the preparation as well. So it's a mixture of all of those things, but it's never like just free talk or something like that, because, you know, that can get stressful too, because
for sure,
you know, you have to keep thinking of things to talk about, right? So
for sure. There's everyone. I think it's not good that everyone does just like every teacher, for example. I don't think it's good that every teacher does the same thing. I think variety is good, and then everyone learns in different ways. So, and what you said on grammar, what you touched upon is kind of similar to my thesis, but I say it in a little different way, where I suggest, like, I don't think you need a teacher for grammar in essence. Like, maybe just, I think you can learn a lot of grammar at home, but using it will help you retain the information. And there'll be points that you need to specifically practice with a teacher for sure. There always are, but I think that using it is important. And if you use different topics, that's good for training different vocabulary as well.
Sure is. Absolutely. Yeah,
great. So how long sorry, please.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. How long have you been doing Instagram for? Because obviously I've got an idea, but how about the followers? How long have you done it for?
Not very long. I opened the page back in, I think, April of this year, and I made some posts, but I was really just trying to practice making posts. So I didn't put any hashtags. I didn't, you know, have any like Instagram, you know, friends or anything, followers. I was just posting to practice posting. Okay, what does this content look like if I put it on my page and I put some caption and, okay, this type of picture, or this type of video, what does it look like? Does it look like it's good? And then, you know, or does it look like junk, right? So I need to like, okay, was it good or not good? And, okay, then I did a bunch of that, and then I'm like, okay, finally, I'm gonna start like trying to get some followers and like, you know, not just get a high number of followers, but to get like people who are really interested in learning and who like, you know, who like learning and who are motivated to, you know, to look at the content and engage with the content and give me their feedback and those kinds of things. So I don't have a very high number, but I love the people who are following me because they love to like, you know, engage with my content, and they're interested in learning English. So I love people who are motivated, and that's really important. Yeah.
And I think like that learning curve of starting to do Instagram is similar to a learner speaking English for the first time, you know. Like
absolutely.
My first video was like a week it took because I hated my voice, or you know, if I wanted to perfect it or whatever. But once you get going, it's just a case of doing it, and then things get faster, and then you can build on it
little by little. Yeah. Like you said, the first piece of content, you know, it's like an hour or 2 hours, you know, just sitting there looking at it and fixing it and looking at it. Little by little. It still takes me a lot of time to do it. So I don't post a lot. Like I don't post like my goal is to post at least every day, at least once a day. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. My goal is to do at least once a day and then build it from there, twice a day, maybe 3 times a day. But really like first get the consistency of once a day.
Yeah, so it's just a case of just doing it. That's the key in it. Like the thing is, the first post you make takes a long time just to build itself because you're learning on the job, aren't you? You're like learning how to make it.
Right.
And the same as like an English learner trying to construct a sentence. It's the same situation.
Right.
But then so like my first video took me a week, and now I can probably record 6 videos in an hour of just the video side before editing, you know? So it's just one of those things. It builds up over time, doesn't it? Someone asked a very good question. What is a tip? What tip do you give to students who try to escape mistakes?
Who try to escape? I'm sorry?
Who try to escape mistakes.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's a good question. Because when they're trying to escape the mistakes, they usually speak very, very slowly, right? Because they're trying to think and think and think. And I usually just tell them to just relax, make the mistakes. It's okay. As you make mistakes, we'll fix them. That's why you take the lesson, right? Because if you could, the lesson is not like, you know, the teacher giving a grammar point for 1 hour. It's talking about something that they need to know about in English and having a conversation about it and letting them make mistakes. You know, just I encourage them to make mistakes because if they make mistakes, then we can fix it. But if they're just thinking of the correct answer for a long time, and then it's just it's wasting time, right? The more talking they do, the more mistakes they will make, the more mistakes we can fix, and then the better they will be, right?
Yeah, that is super key. What you said there is a very good point. I think that if people make errors, it's a great thing to do. It's the best thing. It's the best thing for everything. It's not just English, yeah? Like when you first do your first day of your job, you make millions of mistakes and then you get better, yeah? But
exactly.
Speaking is a bit different. Speaking, people are very concerned when they speak to people, which is understandable. So,
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how many people in Japan do this. I don't know how popular it is because just the fact of speaking is like a big enough hurdle as it is. And I kind of think of this next question as like an add-on. But what would you suggest to someone who's trying to learn to talk in a specific accent?
Can you say a specific
accent? Sorry.
Oh, accent. Okay, gotcha. Okay, give me the question one more time, Stu. Sorry.
Sure. So, no worries.
I'll be honest with you. I was looking at a comment that popped up on the screen.
Yeah, same. So So like, yeah, it's great that people contact, but you can see it and then you kind of lose support.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So how can you, if you're trying to learn a specific accent, what would you suggest for that person to do? Like, what material should they look at, do you think?
That's a really good question. I think it's interesting because sometimes, if someone wants to learn American English or if they want to learn British English, they can, for example, like most of my students want to learn American English. I guess that's why they choose me, right? Because they want to learn American English, right? But they have like a manager who's British, or they have a manager who's Australian, or something like that. So they do need to get those accents, and I can't give it to them, right? My impersonation is not good enough to give them the accents that they need to hear, right?
I'm impressed that you try.
No. Sometimes if I'm really comfortable with the student, I'll do it as a joke, but I'm not really good at impersonation. So, but yeah, I think the list, as much listening as they can do, and some people like to do shadowing, and some people don't like to do shadowing, right? People who don't like to do shadowing probably aren't going to do it. If I tell them, hey, yeah, you should get this, watch this YouTube video of this person speaking British English and do some shadowing for it. If they like shadowing, they'll do it. If they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. And it's not my place to pressure them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think our place is to encourage them and to give them motivation and to give them support. And if they ever need some English, whatever it is. So my students contact me all the time, in the middle of the, evening, sending me a message. Hey, I have to send this email to my boss. Is it okay? So sure. I'll just check the email and yep, it's good. Or, ooh, no, you have to change these things. So I think having someone to motivate you, whatever works for you is the best. Having someone to motivate you, having someone to support you is the best, I think. So
yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
How do you feel about that? That's a good question about the accent learning.
For me, it's similar to what you said, actually. I would suggest to listen to a lot of stuff that is, sorry, my phone's running out of battery, and also it's getting very hot, so I need to plug in.
No problem.
Plug in the fan. So maybe just to open the door because it's quite cold these days, isn't it? I would just suggest, just to relax and try and, like you say, I think half the time people just haven't ever done shadowing. So that's half the battle. That first step is the same again as making the video, for us. If eventually they try, there's a good chance that they will improve. Well, there's a massive chance they'll improve. Shadowing is super good especially for accents. Just copying someone with anything is good. With anything you do. Like if you're a football player and you copy a trick from Ronaldo, you're going to get better at that trick. So it's a similar concept with accent. Yeah. Just practice. It's a long-term thing. Again, nothing happens in 2 months or 3 months. So it's just one of those, and you have to try and keep on going.
That's a good point. And even if the beginning goal is very, very small, just okay, I know you don't like shadowing, but just do it for 5 minutes and put it down. Just do it for 5 minutes and put it down. And next day do it another 5 minutes. Even though it's only 5 minutes and it's very short, the habit of doing it and then understanding that it doesn't hurt you and it's only going to help you and it's not that difficult, and to kind of lose the embarrassment that comes from talking to yourself, right? You kind of talk.
That's
to yourself,
weird.
Right?
It's not weird. It's 100%. I get it, but it's just you. The only person who can hear you is you. So unless you're in a room full of people at like an internet cafe, I get it then. But most of the time it's just you and your computer. So although it may seem strange, the benefit, it's just like studying with a textbook, but you're just speaking instead of reading. So it's but like you say, you can't force people to do it. You can just suggest. And what other ways, like some quick video on pronunciation of a certain phonic sound or something along those lines, I definitely feel watching something and then copying is a good way, for sure. Yep. 100%.
Absolutely.
So with your students, what are they kind of preparing for? What is their goal for the general? What was the average goal, would you say?
The average goal, that's a good question. I mean, I have my students all come from different backgrounds. So I have, I have a salesperson, I have an accountant, I have a human resources person, a CEO, a couple of doctors, a couple of researchers. So they're completely different, pharmaceutical. They all have completely different backgrounds. And even with those different backgrounds, they all have different reasons why they're studying. So some of them are like high-level people in a very big companies, and you would think, okay, high-level person, big company, wants to study English. Okay, they want to study business English, right? Exactly. But no, actually, they just want to learn. They just want to talk about other things besides business English, because they just want to practice talking about various topics. So we talk about like trends, and we talk about like things that are happening in the news, some motivational topics, some self-help topics like organization and things like that. All kinds of different topics for that type of person. But sometimes they do need it for work, or they do need it. We have a CEO who was going to Europe to make a new partnership. So the 3 months before she went to Europe, we were studying really, really hard, because she needed to memorize everything that she needed to say on this business trip, right? So we had a very clear goal with a time limit, and she actually had a very, very successful business trip. So I was very happy, and she got the partnership.
Do you think that because she had such a specific goal, now that's like many people have goals when they try to practice English, the common one is like, I want to get better. But I think it's so vague, that kind of goal. Do you think because she had such a specific goal that she succeeded in what she wanted to do, rather than having like the vague?
I do think so. Yeah, that's a really good point, because the goal needs a time, right? So if you just say I'm gonna get better someday, oh well, that's someday never really comes, right? So in 3 months, clear goal, business trip. If it's successful, she will make a lot of money and she will do very well. If it's not successful, then she won't. So there's goal, there's some pressure, but again, you don't want too much stress on your goal, right? So it has to be realistic. It has to be something you can do if you take the proper, consistent study steps, right? Yeah. So I always tell the students, don't stress about it. If you're going to stress about studying, then you're going to stop, right? You're going to quit, right? Because
100%.
Yeah. So even if you have a goal, and it's a very important goal, the most important thing is to, just do what you can when you can, and make sure, of course you want to reach that goal, and you're going to reach the goal, but the only way you're going to do it is with consistency and not stressing out too much. That's the most important thing that I tell people.
Yeah, definitely. Do any of your students suggest that they just want to speak to like a native speaker in yourself? Because I find like some students put native speakers quite high up, and they don't want to try and speak to non-native speakers because they feel it's a negative effect on their language.
I see. So you like a Japanese person speaking with a Japanese person, is that right? Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's that, yes, they don't want to pick up any bad habits. I think that's one for sure. Also, I think, that sometimes people get embarrassed to speak in the second language. And like, for example, when I see my foreign friends, no matter what my level or their level of Japanese is, we usually talk in English, and we almost never talk in Japanese to each other, right? Almost never. So, and the reason is because, if we make a mistake, we'll feel bad. I don't know. There's no reason why we should feel bad, but yeah. So I think it's the embarrassment, and like you said, not picking up any mistakes. Yeah.
But if you find someone with a similar level, do you think that would be you think it's better to do rather than not to do, and just imagine speaking with a native speaker, for example? Do you think it's better,
Yeah,
especially
sure,
in a
of
country
course.
like Japan, where there's no native speakers, next to no native speakers who aren't a teacher, who want to give out free English, for example? Um,
Mm.
do you think it's
Yeah,
better just to
exactly.
speak?
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're speaking with. I think the more people, the more output you do, the more talking that they do, the quicker they will learn, right?
Mm.
And yeah, if they listen to someone who doesn't speak perfect English because they're not a native speaker, it's okay, because you can hear their mistakes, and you can
Yeah,
see, he made the mistake there. You can find their mistakes, so you don't want to copy them, but you can have a conversation with them and talk to them. And if they make a mistake, then you can learn from their mistake at the same time that you're learning from your own mistakes, right?
yeah. That's a super interesting point, actually. I haven't really thought of it like that before. So yeah, there is value to that as well. Um,
Right.
and it must be kind of awkward trying to tell people that they've done something wrong, though, yeah? Because obviously in those situations you're kind of exchanging language, so you want to
Right.
help each other, but there must be kind of another thing that puts people off, I suppose, because of that
Yep.
social pressure.
It happened to me today, actually. I was we're talking about us speaking speaking Japanese to each other. Yeah, I went to an American football game. I had a busy day today, by the way. I
Yeah, of
didn't tell you
course.
about.
Yeah,
Can
two
I take a
games.
minute and tell you about my day today?
Please crack on.
I had in the morning, I went to an American football game. It was absolutely fantastic. It was my first American football game in about 10 years. I went to one American football game when I first came here, because, like you said before, it's you want to limit the culture shock. And one of the ways I could limit the culture shock was to find an American football game and to go there. So I went there once 10 years ago, and now 10 years later, I went again, and it was fantastic. It was the companies have teams, and they play football, and the people who go, it's not a lot of people, but they love football. So everybody's very excited to be there, and it was a really good energy and very good. It was really good atmosphere. Really good
That's great.
atmosphere. Yeah. Came back home, had a lesson with a student, and then just went out to see the Japan rugby match.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they lost. But yeah. But it was a big sports day for they had the sports festival last week, right? So now the sports day was the national holiday recently, and I had my own Steve Sports Day today, so it was good. It was good.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, especially. So that's interesting. I've got an interesting question then. So you've seen two different types of the same game, which is not the same game, but virtually very similar games, yeah?
Sure.
American football and rugby.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you must be a big fan of American football more so than rugby because of where you're from. But what do you think of the differences between the two? What do you see? Like, do you appreciate like a certain thing from one sport that you wish was in the other, or?
It's a good question. I when I first came to Japan, and actually until recently, sometimes my students or my friends would ask me, "Hey, which is better, rugby or American football?" I was like, "Oh God, okay, I'm from America, so I love American football. And by the way, if you ever want to start a fight between like an Australian person and an American, ask which is better, rugby or American football, right?" And some people used to actually do that, but I had never watched a rugby match until 2 weeks ago. It was my first rugby match when Japan was playing against Samoa. That was my first rugby match. I didn't know any rules except for watching one YouTube video just to kind of understand the scoring system, right?
Yeah, sure.
Rugby's great. Rugby is fantastic. I had no idea how good it was. I mean, I never cared. In America, nobody watches rugby, right? So,
Yeah, sure.
Great sport, very athletic, very strong people playing, no protection, hitting each other very hard. It's a rough game. It's a difficult game. You know, you play offense and defense. You don't come off the field,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Constantly going. You know, very physical. Very. You know, it's a, and it's really great. I mean, there's a lot of similarities in that the people are big and strong, and that the ball kind of looks the same, but the rules are pretty different, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think it's good in some ways because, you know, rugby. I know that in rugby there's some penalties, but I don't need to know what they are because I don't need to know all of them, right? In American football, you kind of need to know what the penalties are. It's important, right? But American football has a lot of breaks, a lot of TV commercials, a lot of timeouts, a lot of instant replay. You know, there's a lot of, it's like, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop.
Super stop, yeah.
Rugby almost never stops, right? It's really good. It's really good. Of course, I love American football. It's my favorite sport. I played it in university. I love it. But I have a lot of respect for rugby players and and rugby fans, of course. Yeah.
It's the thing that most interests me is the fact that, you know, it's a sport where big men are literally manhandling each other, like, and being very rough with each other, and then the level of respect they show the referee is just incredible. Yeah,
it really is. It really is.
That's the thing that always gets me. Like football, they're just ridiculously so disrespectful, and soccer, sorry.
Yeah.
And then in rugby, it's just like they are so, like, as soon as the referee makes a decision, it's rare that someone tries to argue with him, and then they just get on with the next play. It's good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very, very good. It's very good. Yeah, they're almost having a conversation in there, right? You know, just, okay, this is what you did, and this is why it's a penalty. So, okay. Yeah, he's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, very little arguing. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't notice that, but now that you mention it, I totally noticed that. Yeah. Very, very different in that way. Very different in that way.
Do you think the protection in American football is what has actually led to more players getting injuries because people feel that they're invincible in a sense?
That's a good point. It could be. It could be, right? They've been doing a lot to kind of change the head injury problem that was happening.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, in the past, you were taught to just bang heads with each other, right? Just bang, 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 bang. And then suddenly they realized, ooh, you know, hitting people with your head is not good. It's inside your head is your brain, so you shouldn't do that. So, yeah. So now the rules are different, and it's a lot safer. And in fact, the way people tackle in American football is based on the way people tackle in rugby. So they watched rugby videos, and they talked to rugby players and rugby coaches, because rugby players generally tackle without smashing their head into the person, right? So
yeah, sure.
So they do a lot more rugby type of play now. Yeah.
Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, you see like some of the real hits that get put on YouTube, and it's like you wince each time you watch them. It's
incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
How they survive is mental, but yeah. That's great. One student's asked, do you think that a student can become good at English if they are learning by themselves?
Good question. I think, you know, they have to, as long as they're speaking in some way. So then in that case, they would definitely need to be doing some kind of speaking, even if they're just shadowing a conversation from a CD or some kind of music file. You know, they have the book has a conversation, the CD is reading the conversation, and they're shadowing, you know, something simple like that. And if they don't like to listen and shadow exactly, even without listening to the voices, you know, just doing it by themselves, right? They have a book, they're reading the book, but they're reading it out loud, using their voice, not using a silent voice, not using their inside voice where they're not making any sound, talking as if someone were in the room, reading the book out loud, in a clear voice in your best English, right? And the good thing about that is the grammar is correct, right? You know the grammar is correct because you're reading it from a book, right? So you're not trying to imagine the grammar. I think self-study is possible, but I think it's difficult too, right? Because you need the discipline. So
yeah, that's a very, very good point.
Everybody has a different personality. If you can motivate yourself and you don't need to meet someone, I think self-study is possible, but you really have to work hard at it and have a clear plan and a clear goal and a very detailed way that you will get there. Okay, I'm going to watch these movies. But when I watch these movies, so I can hear the native speakers, I'm not going to just read the Japanese subtitles for 2 hours. I'm going to read, at first, maybe read the English subtitles and also try it with no subtitles. And then, okay, Japanese subtitles if it's really difficult, but promise you'll only look if you really, really need to, right? That kind of thing. So that kind of thing takes a lot of motivation and a lot of discipline. And, if someone can do it by themselves, that's great. If not, then most people cannot, right? So
yeah, sure. Yeah, I kind of think like in this day and age, we don't necessarily need to pay for a teacher. Everything is available online for free. Even we're just remaking the wheel whenever we make a post, really. We're just replacing the same content that was there, but maybe doing it in a slightly different way. But I think like a teacher, there's so much information now. The teacher can like direct. They can find your level quickly and they can direct you to improve, and it will improve very fast. And you also get the chance to expose yourself to conversation, which I think is super key. Conversation is super key. So
absolutely. Absolutely. It's only really for people who have no other option for some reason. If there's really no option to take a lesson with someone, then it's okay. But I mean, you need someone to ask you a question that you have to respond to quickly, right?
Yeah,
you have to be able to produce the English that you learned, right? So just like when Japanese people were in elementary school or junior high school and learned a lot of English, but never produced the English, no output, right? So the conversation is very important, where someone is talking, you're listening, and then you're talking when it's proper to talk. You're asking questions, you're answering questions, like that, right? Yeah, I agree.
Someone's put that they like to watch documentaries because narrators speak crystal clear, which is great, but English is full of knockbacks. Whenever you try to speak, there's going to be something that you think, oh, I didn't do that correctly, or you can't hear someone, you don't understand what they're saying. It's good to have that crystal clear, perfect accent the first time you hear, but when you meet someone one-to-one who's a native speaker, they're more likely. It's like a minority that speak with that accent. It's really not that common. So It's good to hear as many accents as possible. Not if you're learning to speak one, just concentrate on one, but be aware of this is also here,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So absolutely. We've got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to promote while you're here?
Oh, sure. My Instagram, you can probably, I guess they can see it on here. It's Coach
at the top here.
Good. Yep. Yeah. So please, anyone who's listening, of course, feel free to follow me. I promise I'll produce the best content that I can, and I'll do anything I can to support everyone out there. My website is on there as well. So it's stevesenglishcoaching.com, and it has all of the details about my style and my system and why I do this. I love helping people. That's the #1 priority. Before I was an English teacher, I was a headhunter. So I was an English teacher for 4 years, and then I was a headhunter for about 5 years. While I was a headhunter, I had a side business of English coaching. And then when the English coaching got to a level where I needed to choose because I was too busy. So I decided, I really love English coaching. I love my students and I love helping people. headhunting was great too, but I had to choose, so I chose English coaching, and I'm very happy that I did. So I love my students. I love working with people. I do give a free demo lesson, so if anybody, you know, wants to take a free hour and have a conversation with me, it's no problem. I will never pressure anyone to continue to take my lessons. You know, it's just a good conversation, and just to introduce ourselves, and that's it. So whether it's someone who wants to study, you know, to speak with native speakers when they're traveling, or to speak it at work, or if they're going for job interviews, they need some interview advice and interview preparation, I do a lot of that as well, because I was a headhunter before. So I get a lot of referrals for people who are going on job interviews. They're going to work at a foreign company, so they need to practice the exact English that they will use on the interview. I have a very specific plan that I use for that as well. Yeah.
Oh, right. I see. Yeah,
That's all I have to promote.
But yeah, that's a good job hunting and interviews is not there. I don't think there's so much information as in the only way to practice is with someone, you know, and you can't do it with just yourself and reading. It's really like a situational thing, and especially if English is involved. So I think that's a real useful thing to be practicing, especially people moving abroad and people who want to move abroad, which is many people who want to learn via Instagram or whatever platform they use. So that's a great thing to have for sure, and not done enough, I don't think.
Yeah, when I was a headhunter, you know, when somebody had an interview, we would send them some, you know, some Word documents with, you know, a bunch of questions on them. Hey, be prepared for these questions. You know, these are the people you will meet with. They might ask you this and this and this, so please be ready. But we wouldn't check their answers, right? You know, we don't know what they're going to say exactly, right? So in this situation, I can help people and prepare them. Ooh, don't say that. That's a bad answer. Say something like this, right? So kind of avoiding mistakes. So anyway.
Yeah, that's super important. So
yeah, just one thing that I do. I really, really, really like. I know I said it 10 or 20 times in this meeting, but I really love helping people, and it seems like you do too, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm that's why I do this. I mean, I haven't got like a side thing at the minute, so I'm hoping one day some big company will give me some money for putting a bottle of sake in the back of the picture or something. I don't know. You know, maybe that'll happen. You never know. But yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Once you get down that on Instagram, like the posting thing where you post once a day, and like I'm now like on 2 or 3 a day, so it just comes with time. And once you nail down the process, once the process is worked out, it's super simple, and you just do it, you bang it out. But I think we also have this lack of confidence as well, where when we post, we think we have to make a big deal out of everything we do with it. But we don't realize that even just posting our voice is enough, you know, to an extent, you know, so. Right.
You post some really good stuff, Stu. I really like your Instagram page, and I really like what you're doing. You have some really good, some good things on here. So,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, you keep up the good work too.
Yeah, you too, man. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure you want to get to bed because it's quite late, and
it is getting late. I have a lesson early in the morning tomorrow at 6 a.m. So yeah, I should go to bed soon. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time anyway, and everyone who's on here, please follow him. The things up here. I'll put a post on stories afterwards as well, so you can grab his profile.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, everyone who's here as well. Cheers.
My pleasure, Stu. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, sometime in the future, let's do it again sometime, okay?
I'd love to, mate. Thanks a lot.
All right, Stu. Have a good night. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.